My name is Carol McKay, and I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I have a cottage over here in Fenton. I'm retired. I worked at Spectrum Health for 32 years. Very happy to retire.
Real name is Lawrence Gordon Joseph Errol, but I go by Larry. And I entered the military in 1969, so I was there for the Vietnam War, part of the Vietnam War, Grenada, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, and there were a couple of other small ones in there.
In 1967 in Central Park on Easter Sunday, there was a bee-in, and it was actually an anti-war demonstration. And there were 150 kids from our church all going to New York to not to celebrate, to study music. And we all went to the peace demonstration. It was just against the war. Probably 15. It was 125,000 people. It was a beautiful Easter day that everyone was picking daffodils and giving each other flowers, of course saying peace and love. And it was just gorgeous out, and everybody definitely back then had a very strong opinion on the war. I would think it started before I was born. I was born in 1953. I'm not sure of the date it began. And then when I was a teen, many of my friends were getting drafted, which meant they weren't willingly signing up. They had a rotary thing of their birthdays, and they would just be chosen by a draw of when their birthday was.
I wasn't allowed to go into that country because of my security clearances. I had very high security clearances. My entire unit at that time was the Army Security Agency. And if you look for the records of any unit in the Army Security Agency in Vietnam, there are none. They're all radio research stations that are over there. So you might be an Army Security Agency guy and get assigned to a radio research station. Huh. And Now I did go to Thailand. I was in Thailand, and we had I'm an electrical engineer. So a lot of the stuff that I did was dealt with electronic systems and things like that. Generally in the military, you have one job, okay, but that's not your only job. You have a lot of other jobs that you do. In my case, I was a signals intelligence officer, cryptologist. Okay, so I broke ciphers and codes, things like that.
That's awesome.
The other thing that I did, since I was by education electrical engineer, I would get assigned to places where they had electronic stuff, and then I would diagnose that and solve the problem. In Vietnam, for example, we brought the entire electronic radio environment, all of the electronics, all of the stuff that's in there, brought it back to Vin Hill Farm Station, Warrenton, Virginia. And so our intercept operators had what was called a working with. They had someone in North Vietnam in the left ear, and in the right ear, someone that would be down south. So they could get the whole conversation, what was going north and south.
Yes, I do. Many people, many of the people I went to school with. And my high school boyfriend was in the Army during that. He was supposed to go to Vietnam, and in the winter time in Grand Rapids there was too much snow. They shut off the airport, so he lucked out from going to Vietnam to going to Virginia Beach. Well, in my school, my history teacher's son was in Cambodia, and so every single day she would pull the world map down and actually show us where everybody was and what was going on. So I believe that we were hearing the truth from her and maybe not the truth on the news at night. I I'm not sure if the adults were all for it, but none of the kids were. All the kids just wanted peace and not to be involved over there because they didn't call it a war, they called it a conflict, and there was just a lot of lives lost that we knew, people that we knew that didn't come home. One of the really interesting things we did was we wore POW MIA bracelets, and POW stood for prisoner of war, MIA stood for missing in action. You could buy a copper bracelet or a silver one. The money was to raise money for the something about the Vietnam War. And I actually can't find mine, which was copper, but they would try to find you a serviceman who was from near to where you live. Now I found my mother-in-law's, and it's silver and it has a gentleman's name on there. And what you were supposed to do is wear this bracelet until the soldier came home. And her soldier, I wrote to the POW Association or Administration, and they sent back that he had passed away. He was a prisoner of war and missing in action, but they knew the date of his death, how he passed, and all of his information, and that his family did not want his bracelet back because generally you would wear it until the man came home, or woman, but not very many women were in the war. No. Very, very happy. They actually didn't call it a war back then, though. They just called it a Vietnam conflict. It was definitely a war, and very happy about it. Very happy.
War? War is absolutely unpleasant. It is hell. It is basically stark boredom, punctuated with moments of terror.
I remember that very well. I was in 5th grade and we were in class, and our teachers were called to the teachers' lounge. Many of them came back crying. It was a different time in the country where everybody loved who their president was. Whether they voted for them or not, they very much supported them. He was a very popular president. And he had been assassinated in a motorcade that day, riding next to his wife in an open car, like a convertible. He was shot from a book observatory from way up high. Somebody actually was an excellent marksman and just hit him in the brain. And we were bused home from school. Kids were crying even. I think we were too young to really understand, but we knew it was sad. And we watched for about 3 days on TV, on the black and white TV, where the people who were suspected of killing him were arrested, and the people who had stuff to do with it were also assassinated right on television. It was a really interesting time. Being in high school during all of this, I'm sure it was all the innocent part of being a hippie, which was just wearing peace signs and tie-dye clothes and bell-bottom jeans. My favorite thing to wear was a flag shirt that I wore all the time. And just, we would say make love, not war. That's what every single person said. And everybody was for peace. And really, if we didn't understand it because we were kids, we still wanted that to be our goal, that there would be no more wars. And really, one of the things that affected the kids the most is a lot of hippies had a lot of hair. They would be boys with long, beautiful hair, and as soon as they got drafted, they'd show pictures all the time of them just shaving their locks off, shaving their head, and all their hair just falling off, and I'm sure that was very traumatic. And then there were the drug culture hippies, and they were probably known as not being very clean, living in communes together, growing their own foods, and not working anywhere. So there was an awful lot of different groups of hippies. But hippies were basically people who believed in peace.